Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I can't be with you today. I had every intention of being here, but daylight saving has beaten me, as you most probably know. I'm in the musical Annie, playing the role of President Roosevelt. Who else? Good left-winger, but it's only fiction. Let me say to those who may be surprised that I'm speaking and wanted to be personally present today that I don't much care who is supported in politics so long as it's the right person with the right policy. I can't see any greater crisis facing this state and this country than the destruction of prime agricultural land. We seem to be prepared to sell out anything and everything for the sake of a quick quid from miners. Thank God Aidan Mclindon and Bob Katter, on their public utterances, aren't. The Katter Party is appropriately named the Australia Party. When is someone going to start fighting for Australia instead of for themselves? The background to the problem we face is simple. Labor governments have gone broke. Under disgraceful economic management in the state of Queensland, where the Treasurer is some wet behind the ears, never had a fair dinkum job, 30-something-year-old whose claim to fame is that he's asking the people of Mount Cootha to support him when he's taken Queensland into $85 billion of debt. So how are they going to pay it off? Easy. Sign up every mining company they can and believe that the royalties will somehow retire the debt or camouflage their hopeless mismanagement. Fraser can't run away from $85 billion in debt, and the people at Mount Cootha will have the final say on that. But the nature of this problem is extensive and dramatic. Now, in the wake of the Queensland floods of this week, and just think about the lies that have been told at that inquiry and the cover-up, floods we should never have had if the Wivenhoe Dam strategy had been properly applied, which I suppose makes you wonder, how many lies have we been told about coal seam gas mining and open-cut coal mining? We weren't told that the Australian Federal Police may be monitoring coal seam gas protesters, which was suggested in the Senate this week. We weren't told that the Gillard government was outsourcing intelligence gathering of protesters to private consultants. In other words, farmers trying to protect their land from coal seam gas mining, parents concerned about their children's health, may now form part of a secret federal police dossier. But of course, if Arrow Energy can employ Queensland police to arrest people in the Kerry Valley, anything is possible. Now with the floods in southern Queensland, how many coal seam gas dams have been breached? How many holding ponds? How much salt and toxic waste is now flowing into all our river systems? This is scandalous. For the sake of paying off a debt incurred through hopeless waste with Fraser as Treasurer, prime farmland is being plundered, our river systems being polluted, our aquifers are being exhausted, and public health is at risk. And Aidan Mclindon and his team have been the lone outspoken voices, most probably the only people not on the payroll of mining companies. I've got a file a metre thick of consultants to mining companies, and mining companies have recruited everybody and anybody from the highest level of government to do their bidding. The head of the Queensland Department of Environment and Resource Management has confirmed that they've lost 68 staff to the mining industry since January 2010. As a result, there's no ability, scholarship, energy or will to properly regulate these mining companies. The National Water Commission, not Alan Jones, has argued that over 300 gigalitres a year of water minimum will be taken out of the Great Artesian Basin every year for 25 years for coal seam gas mining. 300 gigalitres is 600 Sydney harbours, 300,000 Olympic swimming pools. Multinational miners pay not a cent for the water, not a brass razoo. And the water supply is not only being polluted, but exhausted. This Bligh government has ripped up the town where I was educated, Auckland. I lived there, was brought up there. I am and always will be a Queenslander. And the Bligh government has allowed mining vandals, it's the only way they can be described, to buy up thousands of hectares of prime agricultural land, remove the homes from the little town of Auckland so it appears as though the place never existed. Shift the war memorial, the emblem of those who fought and died for what is now being sold out to the mining industry. And beside New Hope's open-cut coal mine is a Rhodes Scholar, Tanya Plant, a Queensland farmer and mother who lives near where I went to school, beside an open-cut coal mine 24/7, 2 kilometres from her home. Her 2-year-old daughter has been having coughing fits. She's worried that her children have been coughing for months. The family are worried about constant exposure to noise and dust and plumes of gas. Who cares? This woman's 36. She wanted to continue to live an active life for some time yet, The farm's been in the family for generations. Who cares about these people? Well, I know Aidan Mclindon does. I know the Queensland government doesn't. For me, this is not an election about what we're against. This is an election about what we're for. And I'm for Aidan Mclindon and Bob Katter because they've said quite clearly this nonsense won't go on. There won't be coal seam gas licences granted on prime agricultural land. There won't be open-cut coal mine licences on prime agricultural land. To just go back to my tiny little township and the little one-teacher school that I attended, Ackland, when the new Ackland coal mine opened in 2002, it was a small mine. It's now a 4 million tonne a year operation, but that's not enough for the greedy government. They want to approve stage 3. Yet, the outfit that owns this is tied to a chemist chain, would you believe? Soul Pattinson. They own 60% of New Hope Coal. The existing mine is scheduled to be exhausted in 2018, but they want stage 3, which has got to be stopped, which would extend the life of this mine by a further 35 years. The Rhodes Scholar Tanya Plant would be 71. Living, like many Queenslanders, a life of misery for years and years to come. I've spoken to many of these people. I've addressed them at rallies. I've seen grown men stand up in front of a microphone at Oakey and burst into tears at what is happening to them. We're not going to let bastards in government, and I don't care what government, Liberal, National Party, Labor Party, we're not going to let these bastards destroy people's lives, destroy our food security, destroy our water, destroy our public health. Here's a young man, Aidan Mclindon, 32 years of age, born in Darwin, one of 9 kids, sold hot dogs at Dreamworld at 14 years of age. He had a rock band. He's a member of the Army Reserve. He's got a degree in politics and government. He joined Bob Katter's party because he believed the major parties had no belief system. He moved a motion in the Queensland Parliament in November 2010 calling for a moratorium on coal seam gas mining. The Liberal National Party and the Labor Party voted the motion down, 83 votes to 6. We saw people protesting recently in the Kerry Valley. The mood is changing. The public will not cop this. People are desperate for someone to stand up and stand beside landowners, farmers, the productive sector, who fed us for years and are capable of feeding us and the rest of the world for years to come, unless we allow greedy multinational miners to take the rubles and run. Well, I, for one, while there's breath in my body, am not going to allow that to happen. I don't know about this can do or can't do stuff. To me, it's a heap of crap. I'm sick of slogans. I'm simply saying there are people out there and they're desperate. There are farmers the length and breadth of this state who are wondering what the hell is going on. What did our forefathers fight for? What are we prepared to surrender for the sake of a quid? This is not an election about shallow fakes. This is an election about fair dinkum people. Simple, straightforward people who allow common sense to rule what they're about. Not owned by mining companies, not prisoners of mining companies, prisoners of common sense and decency. And when they protest for rights that every Australian seeks, the right to own your own land and have some say over it, they're photographed by the Queensland Police. I'm told that every protester and every supporter at Kerry Valley, that is, the elderly farmers' wives who cook casseroles and cakes and drop them in at the blockade, they're now part of some criminal file. Has this government in Queensland declared war on all of us? A group of concerned doctors has written to federal and state ministers about the risks to the population near open-cut mining. There's an outfit in the United States, Positions for Social Responsibility, who found that people in high coal-producing counties had higher rates of cardiopulmonary disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, hypertension and kidney disease compared with people in non-coal-producing countries. And here we have a massive coal dump a kilometre from the town of John Darien, not far from the town where I was born. Well, there'll be a protest march there on Monday week, and I suppose people will be arrested for standing up for public health. I said when I addressed the National Press Club last year that the mining industry in this state was the upper house of the Queensland Parliament. They are controlling what decisions are being made. Central Queensland is the Fitzroy River catchment area, 14 million hectares, prime agricultural land. That's why it's called the Golden Triangle. 87.99% of this is under an exploration permit for coal, or a mineral development licence, or a mineral lease. That is larger than the total landmass of North Korea, twice the size of Ireland. 724 exploration permits for coal, Within the Fitzroy catchment area, 429 already granted. Farmers, political prisoners. If they refuse to sell their farms to the mine, they can't find buyers for their land. And nobody wants to touch land that's next to a coal mine or in the path of a mine or being drilled for coal seam gas. So the land value collapses. They can't sell their land, their farms or their homes. They can't pull up sticks and shift. They can't leave their friends. These people have been sold out by a government devoid of morality, gutless in the face of rapacious mining interests. Someone, apart from Aidan Mclindon and Bob Catter, tell me why farmers can't protect their beautiful land. Can someone tell me why they're not allowed to protect their water? Can someone tell me why they're not allowed to protect their food security? Can someone tell me what's to happen to the mountains of salt that will be dragged to the surface at every coal seam gas site? Ask any farmer, any scientist, any ordinary suburban gardener what salt will do to their soil and they'll tell you. Yet we have a government in Queensland who's dumb enough to give coal seam gas and coal mining companies the right to plunder our best agricultural land and as well extract half as much water out of the Great Artesian Basin as we know we can sustainably use. And then, of course, the other issue, which I haven't got time to address today, allowing some of our best agricultural land to be sold to foreign interests. Twice last year, the former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd spoke on the issue of global food security. How the hell can he hold his head up unless he's a hypocrite and be supporting Anna Bligh? At a conference to agricultural scientists in Brisbane last September, Mr Rudd warned that governments must tackle global food security or risk war, political chaos and large movements of environmental refugees, including to Australia. That's what he said. He wanted food security to be on the agenda of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Perth and the G20 meeting in Cannes. And he told scientists in Brisbane that global food production would need to increase by 70% by the middle of the century to feed an expected population of 9.3 billion. He was right. He said, quote, "Failing to address the challenge of food insecurity will have political, social and broader social security repercussions," unquote. Well, if Kevin Rudd believed all that then, how does he support Anna Bligh now, where Queensland is allowing mining interests to plunder the very land that could guarantee our food security? In this country since 1976, farmers have abandoned more than 100 million acres of land. Fed up, they sell to government or overseas interests or mining companies, or they're bamboozled by mining companies and are made to sell. And this is what this young 32-year-old bloke, Aidan Mclindon, is railing about, and people like Carl Rackerman and others. He's been there, he's seen it, he's listened, and I believe he's prepared to do something. I'm not opposed to coal mining or coal seam gas mining. I've never been. I'm opposed to the arrogance with which these people think they can go anywhere, do what they want and get away with it. Well, the truth is coming out. And you people have to find the courage to talk and encourage others to do likewise. But many people I know, thousands of them, are not just talking. They've decided to do something and they're locking the gate. One day, I can tell you, this nation will be permanently in debt to Drew Hutton because he said lock the gate. And the mining industry has to be told at this election that they have a monumental battle on their hands. You can go and mine, we want you to do that, but you're not going to touch prime agricultural land. You're not going to contaminate the aquifers. You're not going to exhaust the aquifers. You're not going to destroy public health. And you're not going to set up shop a handful of miles away from major urban centres. This government in Queensland has conspired to remove the rights that people have over the ownership of their land. This government in Queensland has conspired with mining companies to bully, to abuse, and to force Australians into court if they don't comply with the demands of foreign-owned multinational mining companies. Indeed, the Bligh government issued in November 2010 a document called Tips for Landholders, Negotiating Agreements with Resource Companies. And it said, and I quote, "Regardless about how you feel about the activities taking place on your land, you're encouraged to develop a courteous and cooperative working relationship towards the resource company." And then they warn, quote, "how costly, stressful and time-consuming going to court will be." You tell me one coal seam gas company that has shown you a map of the gas wells and what they look like. You tell me one company who's shown you a map of the all-weather roads that will be needed to service the gas wells on your property. Will they show you a map of the topsoil that'll need to be removed for pipe construction to connect the gas wells? Will they tell you where the employees will go because they'll have recreational needs and they'll need to be administrative quarters? Will they tell you that these coal seam gas initiatives will become large industry estates? They'll require many hectares. Will they tell you how many compressors they'll need? Will they tell you about the reverse osmosis treatment plant, which you'll be able to hear for miles and miles? Will they tell you that once the water is treated, it has to be stored somewhere because the volume of water they will use, as I've told you, is greater than several Sydney harbours? Will they tell you where they're going to put the residue? Will they tell you where the salt will go or what it will do to the soil? Will they tell you it's a 24/7 operation? Will they tell you what a fully blown gas field looks like? The reason they don't tell you is they think that farmers will cop this nonsense. Well, Mclindon and Catter and others, Carl Rackerman and the people here today are saying we won't cop this nonsense because coal seam gas and open cut coal mining, which are industrial zones now, will in 30 years' time be industrial wastelands. And the beautiful Darling Downs, where I was born and lived and educated, will be destroyed. The beautiful well camp on the edge of Toowoomba, destined to be an industrial zone. Someone has to stand up and be counted. We had a big rally in Gunnedah last year. Following the public meeting, that's in the Liverpool Plains, you could eat the soil. It's about to be trashed. The Sydney Morning Herald, a nice little left-wing newspaper, editorialised, and I quote, "Decisions to exploit energy resources must not be made prematurely so that they preempt the decision to protect the best agricultural land in a continent where it's in short supply. There should be no hurry." It went on, "There is reason to believe that Australia already has too many coal seam gas projects being developed all at once." It said, "It's time to pause. The gas does not degrade if it stays in the ground. There is plenty of time," it said, "to devise a course of action which balances all interests." Well, I know farmers pushed off their land by these mongrels at New Hope Coal and paid so little for their land that they're forced to live out their last winters as paupers. There are children living in coal seam gas regions who've got constant headaches, nosebleeds and rashes. Children living next to open cut coal mines who have constant headaches, nosebleeds and rashes. How do these farmers manage? They're bullied and bamboozled out of their own farms by big gas companies who just move in on them. Good, decent Australian families who don't even have the basic Australian right to hang their washing out in the sun because their entire town is covered in coal dust. All because Labor governments have gone broke. When Michael Caton argued in the movie The Castle that a man's home at his castle, we thought it was a comedy. Now it's a sad and tragic reality when farmers at law have no right to stop mining interests entering their property. What kind of country are we living in? I would expect farmers would have the support of all Australia in their argument to protect underground water resources. I would expect farmers to have the support of all of Queensland in their bid to go about producing food and fibre for an exploding global population. I would expect farmers to have the support of all Queenslanders who are serious about protecting our food supplies in the future and safeguarding valuable agricultural land. This young man, Mclindon, is dedicated to do just that. No politician, no political party, no government has the right to allow the destruction of our land and water, both of which are the true wealth of our nation. For the mining companies, it's about money. For them, our land has no history, no story, no spirituality, no soul. The Queensland government, the Bligh government, on its own website says this, and I quote, "Growing national concern about land conservation has led to a realisation that good quality agricultural land is a finite resource that must be conserved and managed for the longer term. Protecting it from unnecessary development is essential for maintaining the future productivity and efficiency of Queensland's rural industries." That's on the Bligh government's own website. Well, I'm sorry, they're telling lies, because 80% of Queensland is already covered by exploration permits. 90% of the Darling Downs covered by exploration permits. That's what this election's about. Don't be sucked into the view that these mining companies are interested in creating jobs. Most of the workers employed fly in and fly out. They contribute nothing to the continuing economy of Queensland. How the hell can 90% of the Darling Downs be subjected to some form of exploration licence or other? How the hell could Felton, the virtual breadbasket of Queensland, be the site of a petrochemical plant? Slap bang in the middle of one of Australia's greatest food bowls. How the hell can 14 million hectares of appropriately named Golden Triangle find that 88% is under an exploration permit for coal or mineral development licence or a mineral licence. As I said earlier, larger than the total land mass of North Korea, some of the world's finest agricultural land, and this government has allowed 724 exploration permits for coal. 429 of them have been granted 14 million hectares. What the hell is our future? Where is our food security if we either sell our best land to foreign interests or allow mining interests to plunder it? That's the issue of this election. Forget the rest. Xstrata's bought 40,000 hectares of the state's best grazing land at Wandoan. If you believe in farmers and you believe in the land, then I'm sorry, we are at war here. Queenslanders should be saying to Anna Bligh and Andrew Fraser, go and go quickly. And they should be saying to anyone who wants to take their place, you too will go if you don't stand for the simple principle, the right of farmers to have a say over their land, the right of the state to protect prime agricultural land, the right of the state to protect its food security, the right of the state to not exhaust its aquifers, the right of the state to not pollute our waters, the right of the state to safeguard public health. I hope that Aidan Mclindon, Bob Catter, Carl Rackerman and the team can mobilise rural and metropolitan Queensland. We all have a stake in this. I agree with the Queensland Government's website. All I'm asking is Anna Bligh and every Queenslander and every person standing for office to live by the edict of the website. I repeat, growing national concern about land conservation has led to a realisation that good quality agricultural land is a finite resource that must be conserved and managed for the longer term. Protecting it from unnecessary development is essential for maintaining the future productivity and efficiency of Queensland's rural industries, unquote. We are not a cheap quarry for multinational corporations, and we don't intend to be. And we're not going to stand by and allow any political party to turn its back on farmers, the food producers in this state. Simple questions at this election, which I know Aidan Mclindon has asked. I've been on the same platform as this bloke. Why are farmers being asked to hand over to foreign governments or to big multinational companies? Why can't farmers stop these people entering their land? Why can't farmers protect their beautiful soils? Why can't farmers protect their precious water? Why aren't Australians up in arms about all of this? Anna Bligh was born in Warwick. 70,000 hectares are under exploration permit all the way from Toowoomba to Warwick. Kingaroy's Joe's country. Bauxite exploration permits for thousands of square kilometres focused around Kingaroy. Pittsworth, beautiful farming country, the same story. Newmont has a mineral development licence over 13,000 hectares south of Felton. Go out to Dalby and you'll see what it's like. A veritable pincushion of coal seam gas projects. Hodgson Vale's not far from Toowoomba, the home of R.M. Williams's property. He donated the property to the people of the community, his homestead. It's just up the hill from Hodgson Vale. He loved to sit there on the veranda and watch young men play polo. Well, they test drilled the polo ground at Hodgson Vale. What next? The Gabba? Look, it's time to stop being nice guys. This is a critical election, and I plan to do what I can to make sure that the future of this state is not turned over to greedy, profit-dominated multinational mining companies. As a proud son of the Darling Downs, I'm not going to stand by and allow 30 open-cut coal mines on the Darling Downs over the next 10 years. And I'm not going to listen to some mealy-mouthed politician say, oh, well, they're only exploration permits. There's no guarantee that an environmental approval or a lease will be granted. There has never been a coal mine rejected on environmental grounds in Queensland's history. Last year, the former chief executive of Woodside Petroleum, one of Australia's biggest mining companies, Don Volta, left the company after 6 years as a CEO. He told a Business Leaders Forum on the day he left he'd like to be remembered for his decision not to pursue coal seam gas. He said he'd sleep easy because of it. We'll only sleep easy when this rape of agricultural Queensland is ended. I know I've probably spoken for too long. I hope you'll understand that I, like you, are talking about a birthplace, a home, a heritage, and I'm not going to allow some bloody politician to walk over it, savage it and destroy it. And Aidan Mclindon, you're 32. You're young, you've got energy, you've got conviction, and you stand for something because you've listened to the public speak. I wish you well. I'm honoured that you've asked me to speak today. I wish everybody here good luck. I'm sorry I can't be with you.